Hi, welcome to this Blender video tutorial entitled Rendering to a Video File. Much of this information has been covered, in part, in other video or PDF tutorials found in this course. I thought I would bring much of that information together here in a video tutorial. To demonstrate how to render an animation to a video file, I've placed in my Blender scene a simple model of a top. I'll animate this top to spin on its Z-axis over 150 frames. The top object is already assigned a number of colored materials. The floor plane object has a parquet image texture, and the world background for the scene has a sky image texture applied to it. I will first set my animation length to 150 frames by changing the N number on my timeline editor window. I'll then make sure that I am in frame number 1. I'll then select the top object and press the I key and insert a rotation keyframe on frame number 1 for the top object. I'll then go to frame number 10. I'll open up my Right Notation Properties panel and change the Z rotation setting for the top object to 360 degrees. I'll then press the I key and add a rotation keyframe for the top object on frame number 10. I'll then go back to frame number 1 and play the animation. Note that the top spins 360 degrees around its Z-axis over frames 1 to 10. I'll stop the animation and go back to frame number 1. With the top object selected, I'll go to the Graph Editor. Here I'll click View, View All. This displays the rotation animation curve of the top object from frame 1 to frame 10. I do not want the animation to ease out of frame number 1 or ease into frame number 10. So I'll select the animation curve and press the V key and choose Vector Handles for the animation curve. This straightens out the curve so that the rotation animation is constant over the 10 frames. Then with the curve selected, I'll press Channel, Extrapolation Mode, Make Cyclic. This makes the pattern of the rotation animation of the first 10 frames repeat itself over the length of the animation. I'll go back to the 3D viewport and play the animation. Note that the top now spins around its Z-axis 360 degrees 15 times over the course of a 150 frame animation. I'll stop the animation and go back to frame number 1. I'll also click Numpad 0 to display the camera view in the 3D viewport. To render the animation to a video file, I'll click on the Render icon in the Properties panel. In the Dimensions panel, the Blender default resolution for the outputted video or image is 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels at 50%. This means that the output video or image size will be 960 pixels wide by 540 pixels high, or 50% of 1920 by 1080. However, you can set the resolution to any dimension you prefer. For instance, I will set the resolution to 400 by 400 pixels. Now notice as I do this change what happens in the camera view in the 3D display. I'll change it again to 650 pixels by 50 pixels. The changes you are seeing in the camera view of the 3D display are actually changes in the ratio of width to height changes. Blender provides a number of resolution presets by clicking on the Render Presets button. Here I will choose HDTV 720p. The many different resolutions available, and formats as we will see later, are used for a variety of different distribution vehicles: American TV, European TV, post-production processing, computer displays, streaming video, etc. Now generally there are two types of resolution displays. One is usually referred to as letterbox, which has a ratio of 16 pixels of width to every 9 pixels of height. This is also sometimes referred to as 16/9. I'll select the HD-TV 1080p preset. This has a resolution of 1920 pixels wide by 1080 pixels high at 100%. This follows the letterbox 16:9 resolution display. The other general type of display resolution is usually referred to as standard, which has a ratio of 4 pixels of width to every 3 pixels of height. I'll select the HDV 1080p preset. This has a resolution of 1440 pixels wide by 1080 pixels high at 100%. This follows the standard 4:3 resolution display. Now, since most beginning modeling students are likely to share their animation videos on YouTube or Vimeo, or as MP4 or QuickTime files, I'll concentrate on settings primarily for those distribution vehicles. I should preface this discussion with a note that Blender recommends that the users first render their animation as a series of image files and then output them to a video file using the Blender Video Sequence Editor. I'll cover this process in a later video tutorial, but unless your video is extremely long, detailed, and contains complex lighting, reflections, or shadows, or is destined for some post-production process, using the regular Blender video rendering process will work quite well, especially if you intend to share the video on YouTube, Vimeo, or as an MP4 or QuickTime movie. Both YouTube and Vimeo use a 16/9 resolution player, so all videos that will eventually be uploaded to YouTube or Vimeo should use a 16/9 display resolution. Selecting the HDTV 720p preset is a good choice for videos destined for YouTube or Vimeo, and it's one that I can recommend that you use. It has a 16/9 resolution of 1280 pixels by 720 pixels. The percentage setting is quite convenient because you can lower the overall size of the output video while still maintaining the 16/9 video resolution. The regular Vimeo player on the Vimeo site is a 960 by 540 pixels player. The regular YouTube player on the YouTube site is a 640 by 360 pixels player. The large YouTube player on the YouTube site is an 854 by 440 pixels player. All of these resolutions conform to the 16/9 standard. As long as you use the 16/9 display ratio, both YouTube and Vimeo will stretch or shrink the video to fill the player screen. Notice that the Dimensions panel also has an aspect ratio setting. Do not, I repeat, do not confuse this setting with the display resolution of 16/9 or 4/3. This aspect ratio setting refers to the output ratio specifically for an anamorphic or non-square pixel output. This setting may be an important setting for distribution of video to some TVs or to film, but it's not relevant to the distribution to YouTube or Vimeo. Computer display pixels are square and thus have a 1:1 aspect ratio. By default, the Blender frame rate is set to 24 frames per second. Both YouTube and Vimeo accept this 24 frames per second video. The Dimensions panel also has a frame range setting that reflects the length of the animation. You can, however, limit the output video here to a certain range of frames. Next, I'll scroll down to the Output panel. Here I'll click on the Folder icon. This displays Blender's file locator. I'll select my desktop as the output location, and I'll name this file Spinning Top A. I'll then click on the Accept button. Note that the Output panel now indicates that the file will be sent to my desktop, signified by the backslashes, and that the file will be named Spinning Top A. Next, I'll click on the File Format button. This displays the different output formats available for rendering. Both YouTube and Vimeo accept MPEG or .mp4 and QuickTime .mov video formats. I'll select the MPEG as my video format. When you select MPEG, a new panel appears below the output panel titled Encoding. I'll open up this encoding panel by clicking on the arrow icon. Under Format, I'll select MPEG-4. Both YouTube and Vimeo accept MPEG-4 video. By default, the bit rate is 6,000 kilobytes per second. Bitrate controls both the visual quality of the video and its file size. Both YouTube and Vimeo prefer a variable bitrate, but Blender does not provide such an option. 6,000 kilobytes per second is a good bitrate for a 16/9 1280 by 720 video, and is consistent with both YouTube and Vimeo standards. If your video has a higher 16/9 resolution, like 1920 by 1080 pixels, you may want to increase the bit rate to 10,000 kilobytes per second. Now we have a resolution of 1280 by 720 at 100%, which is a 16/9 display resolution. Our file format is MPEG. Our encoding format is MP4. These settings will work well for both YouTube and Vimeo. I should note, however, here that both YouTube and Vimeo prefer videos using the H.264 codec. Unfortunately, Blender, at the time of this video tutorial using version 2.66a, does not fully support the H.264 codec for either MP4 or QuickTime files. Nevertheless, the settings I have here will perform well when uploaded to either YouTube or Vimeo, and it's a quite suitable MP4 file for sharing. Now, this particular spinning top video does not have any audio. I'll cover adding an audio track to a Blender animation in a later video tutorial on the video sequence editor. I'll now scroll up to the top of the Rendering Properties panel and click on the Render Animation button. This will begin the rendering in the image editor frame by frame. This will take some time, so I'll pause this video until the rendering is complete. The rendering is now complete, and I have a file on my desktop named SpinningTopA001-0150.mp4. The file size of this 150 frame 1280 by 720 16/9 video is 4.5 megabytes in size. I'll play this video from my desktop. This is what the video looks like when it is uploaded to Vimeo. This is what the video looks like when it is uploaded to YouTube. An alternative to the MP4 file format is to render the video in QuickTime. In order to render a video in Blender to QuickTime, or .mov format, you must first have QuickTime installed on your computer. I'll go back to the rendering panel. Now, to limit the size of the file, I'll set the existing 16/9 1280 by 720 display resolution to 50%. This means that the outputted video will be sized to 640 by 360 pixels. In the output panel, I'll rename the file Spinning Top QT MP4. I'll change the format to QuickTime. When the QuickTime format is selected, instead of an encoding panel, a number of QuickTime settings appear in the output panel. For best results, I'll select the MPEG-4 codec. and I'll raise the quality to 100%. I'll then scroll up to the top of the Rendering Properties panel and click on the Render Animation button. This will begin the rendering in the image editor frame by frame. This will take some time, so I'll pause this video until the rendering is complete. The rendering is now complete, and I have on my desktop a file named SpinningTop QT MP40001-0150.mov. The file size of this 150 frame 640 by 360 16/9 video is 10.7 megabytes in size. Now this is considerably larger than the MP4 file, even though the pixel size of the video has been reduced by 50%. I'll play the video from my desktop. This is what the video looks like when it's uploaded to Vimeo. This is what the video looks like when it's uploaded to YouTube.